Hello and welcome to ADAP 101, Know Before You Go. This is a presentation by Art Possible Ohio and Ohio Arts Council about the Artists with Disabilities Access Program, which is a grant program of Ohio Arts Council. Thank you for being here today with us. Today's presenters include me, Megan Feitz. I am the Executive Director of Art Possible Ohio. We are a statewide service organization whose mission is to make arts and culture experiences more accessible to Ohio's disability community, and we provide technical support for this particular grant. I'm a white woman with short curly brown hair, clear glasses, and I'm wearing a yellow mustard sweater today. Chaz?
Hi, everybody. My name is Chaz O'Neill, and I am the individual artist in the Percent for Art coordinator at the Ohio Arts Council, and I oversee the grant programs for individuals, and that includes the Artists with Disabilities Access Program grant. So I'm excited to be here and talk to you today about that. I'm a middle-aged white male with dark hair, with beard and goatee, and I'm wearing a maroon-colored button-up shirt today.
So just briefly, we're going to review today's agenda. First, we're going to be talking about eligibility for the program. We are going to cover how the program works from kind of A to Z, how to apply for the program, best practices, what happens after the deadline, and how you may use your award. On the screen is an image of Kristen Morris. She's an artist from Columbus, Ohio, a white woman with straight brown hair. She's wearing a pink jacket. She's standing next to an owl-esque creature that she created out of ceramic works at an exhibition called Accessible Expressions Ohio at Cincinnati Art Museum. We wanted to share with you that we're not going to be describing most of the slides because all of the text that is on each slide, and it's mostly just text, is available on the Ohio Arts Council's website. And additionally, Chaz and I will be able to share anything with you if you request it, including these slides or other information about ADAP. So we're going to just be talking through the text on each slide, but no longer describing anything unless we think it's really significant. Chaz is going to kick us off with eligibility.
All right. All right. Thank you, Megan. So, before applying to the Artists with Disabilities Grant Program, we really want to encourage you to review the program guidelines, which you can get from me directly or Megan directly, or you can download them off of the OAC website. And that website is oac.ohio.gov. You'll go to our grants page and locate the ADAP program under grant opportunities. And there you can also find just like kind of quick highlights of everything we're going to talk about today on that page. And then you can download the actual PDF there. You can also download it in Artie as you are opening your application. There's a variety of ways you can get those guidelines. So the guidelines have a lot of the fine print detailed information that you're going to want to know before applying. But to go further, our applicants that are applying to this program must be at least 18 years or older and an Ohio resident, and they must have a disability. And those disabilities can range from many things under the ADA law, and there is a link to that law in the program guidelines that you can find out more about it. We don't require that you show proof of your disability. That is not our charge with this program, just that you identify as a person with a disability. Okay. So, but there are things that applicants cannot do before applying, and that is one, be a student or become a student during the grant period if awarded. So you can't be a high school student or a student in college or someone pursuing a grant degree of any kind or a degree of any kind. And if you are, again, awarded, you may not become a student later on during the grant period. You cannot apply to both the ADAP grant and our Artist Opportunities Grant Program in the same year. You have to pick one or the other. You cannot use the grant to support day-to-day expenses for a for-profit business. The grant should not be a duplication of previously awarded grant projects. And you cannot use the grant to apply for out-of-state travel, except to to send yourself to a professional development opportunity, such as a conference or workshop or other kind of opportunity like that. So no travel fund just for the sake of traveling. So you have to be able to go somewhere and learn a new skill. All right. So, some things that this program does for Ohio artists is that we want you to be able to introduce your work to new audiences and to raise your artistic profile. We want you to be able to develop your skills, like attending those conferences, artist residencies, or workshops, or to attend an apprenticeship even. Or you could use this grant to advance your work through production of marketing materials. You could build a new website, buy equipment, but it can't exceed 1,500. We'll get to that a little later. Buy materials and art supplies, pay for professional services such as a photographer or a videographer or anything like that, or director or editor, whatever you might need. Or you may use the grant funds to rent a space or buy equipment or rent equipment or facilities to do your work or to present your work. So there's a lot of different ways that this program can benefit your work and your studio practice. All right, we're going to jump in right to how to apply. So your application must include a few required items, and those are support materials and work samples. And there's two different levels one can apply to into this program. That first one is an emerging artist. And an emerging artist is going to apply for a $500 grant, and that person is required to upload a resume or a biography. So one of those two documents you'll have to be required to upload, and your work samples, and that may include up to 12 images, photos, things like that of your past work samples. It can also be audio works, video content, writing samples, but they can't be more than 3 years old. And then the other level an artist can apply to is the professional artist level. And that person can request up to $2,500 to support their project. This person must upload both a artist resume and an artist statement, so two separate documents. And then also the same stipulation as the first one, up to 12 images, audio samples, work samples, video recordings, writing samples, and things like that. So only the two differences is that one has to include an artist resume or a biography, and the professional artist has to include both. All right. All of our applications are submitted electronically into our RD system, which is on our website. So if you haven't already, you might want to create a profile in RD to even just open the application. So there you'll encounter the RD system and submit your application, and that's where you'll keep all your past applications and all of the grant history and all your documentation for the grant payments and things like that will be in that portal. We can send you the ADAP application through the mail if you'd like to have a paper copy of the application, or we can email it to you electronically, a Word document. So if you prefer to work on it that way, we can certainly do that for you. And we ask that applicants include as much information as possible to the responses that we'll talk about here in a little bit, to those narrative questions, to provide panelists with a complete picture of how the grant funding will advance your professional pursuits. And that application is primarily made up of 5 sections. The first section is the summary, which is the who, the where, the why, the when, which is really kind of the elevator pitch for the full proposal. And you want to really make sure that you touch on all of the program parts of the application that you talk about later, we'll talk about in a second, in the summary as well. So you don't want to miss anything, if you don't have any glaring omissions or surprises in the summary and then not talk about them later throughout the rest of the application. So you want to make sure you revisit the summary often as you're drafting your proposal. The next section is the program quality and work samples. So in the program quality, you're talking about your successes and um, your accolades and your standing as an artist, and you want to talk about successful projects that you have done, or this talk of course about how this project will advance your career as an artist. So that's the actual program quality section that you'll write that response to. And then it also incorporates the work samples that I mentioned earlier. So you'll be uploading the resume, the artist statement, bio, and those images, video content that the panelists will want to see to match those up with your program quality response to make sure that you have strong work samples and that you're capable of doing this project that you are proposing. The next section is the community engagement section. And I'm going to go back.
Sorry.
It's okay. The third section is the community engagement. And this is how you'll talk about how this project will impact your ability to engage with the community, um, either in person or electronically, or maybe you want to host an event or you want to attend a workshop or host a workshop of your own. Those are all great opportunities for you. You also want to write about a past success that you also had. So it's always good to give an example of something you've done maybe similar to what you're proposing. So that way the panelist who reviews your proposal has an idea that you've done this type of work already. Now, this is a new venture. That's perfectly fine. Um, or if you just want to share your ability to share your work online more broadly, that is perfectly fine as well. It's just the panel will want to see maybe some kind of metrics on how you plan on growing an audience, or you have the ability to share that work more broadly. So it's always good to have that extra information in that community engagement section. All right, then we can move on. All right, the big one is the defining and measuring success question. This one is worth 25 of the 60 points possible. So it is a big one in terms of that point scale. Um, you want to write in this one about your goals and benchmarks throughout the proposal or throughout the project, and how do you plan on to achieve those. It should include a detailed timeline, and it should be in alignment with your project start date and end date. What is that? Project start date and end date. So your project start date and end date is actually one of the first questions you come to at the top of the application. It'll ask, pick a date when your project will start and pick a date when your project will end. Generally for the ADAP program, the project start date can be as early as July 1 of the year of application, and it can go through June 30th of the next year, next year of the next fiscal year. So you have about 12 months to complete your project, and you don't have to take the 12 months if you don't want to. Your project can be 3 to 4 months or 6 months, but that project start date and project end date is important because you want it to make sure it's in alignment with what you write in this response. All right. And then the final question is the resource management question. This is the money question. So how will you be spending those OAC granted funds? You'll want to have a detailed list, and I think Megan is going to talk a little more about that in detail for us.
Absolutely.
Megan?
Mm. Yes. So sometimes the term resource management can be a little confusing for people. So basically, as Chaz said, this is just the budget breakdown. So all this question is pointing to is how are you spending your money? And can you share with us what you plan on spending for each item? What will that cost? And add it up for us. So the first question is, how will you use grant funding if it is awarded? Simply break down the budget of your project. You might have 2 line items for your budget. You might have 10 items for your budget. There's really no wrong There's no set amount of items that you need to be purchasing or workshops you need to be registering for. The most important thing is making it clear. So I think the most simple way to do this is to create a list. For each line, you simply put the item that you're spending money on. You put how much the item is going to be. It's okay if it's a bit of a rough estimate. You do not have to link any sites or stores or anything like that to prove the cost of that item. You're welcome to if you wish to. And then you list the dollar amount for each item. So you can see a sample breakdown that I have on the screen. This is actually a sample that I've enhanced a little bit, added a little bit of a past artist who has been funded several times, um, who is a jewelry artist and attends festivals and fairs around Ohio to sell her wares. And so for this particular grant, she wanted to have a new laptop and printer so that she could print tags and labels. She was buying some items for the festival so that she could vend. And she was also thinking about promotion. So she wanted a tablecloth with her logo. She wanted some business cards. She needed some materials to be at the vending fairs as well. She maxed out her budget. She spent $2,500 at that professional level. And if you add up each of these items, it will equal $2,500. So we need to make sure that our math is correct. I will talk a little bit about how I can assist later, but this is something that I can help you with if you need support here. And Chaz is available as well. So let me show you what the worksheet looks like. That's going to be on our next slide because I don't want you to be intimidated by it. All this, so once you click through that question, you're going to click a button that expands this worksheet for you. It's going to be a window that pops up on your screen. And you're going to be asked to fill in each of these little rectangles. You're going to first categorize the items from your budget breakdown into the following categories listed here. So look at your big budget list and figure out what items go with each expense. So you do not have to have an amount in each rectangle here, in each line. It is fine if your entire grant is about production. If you're creating an exhibition and you're buying lots of supplies and everything that you're purchasing supports that exhibition opening, that's probably means your whole grant is going to be in production and exhibition. You're going to total each category, and then you're going to slot it into each of these 7 categories. If there's anything you want to clarify, there's actually a box that pops up underneath that you can explain your expenses or talk about how you grouped them if that helps you kind of justify your budget in a way. Once you've totaled the project expenses, it will do the math for you. So that total should equal the grant amount that you're asking for. And then you're going to talk about what funds from OAC are going to that project expense. So in this case, everything that Sarah, or I'm sorry, the artist would be, I gave away the artist name. The artist would be asking for, she's asking OAC to cover. So all the lines equal and correspond. So $385 in marketing. If she gets the $2,500 from OAC, 385 of OAC's dollars are going to go towards her marketing. If you have any challenges trying to determine what items go within each category, Chaz and I are here to help you figure that out. We're happy to sit down with you and tally up the totals, break it down for you, whatever you need in order to get this done. What I want to encourage you to do is not overthink this section. It is simply really listing out your budget, totaling them up, putting them in categories, and making sure that your ask equals your budget lines. Anything you want to add to that, Chaz?
Yeah, if your project expenses exceed the grant, which is perfectly fine, you're actually probably being realistic about what things cost these days, actually, that is perfectly fine if your grant, if your project comes out to $4,000, for instance, but the OAC grant is only going to cover 2,500, you'll indicate what that 2,500 is going to be allocated towards.
Yeah.
And it's always good to indicate how you plan on making up the additional overage, whether it's through in-kind gifts or your out-of-pocket expenses, or maybe artwork sales or ticket sales or album sales, something like that. Yeah.
And if you need language on how to share that with OAC or the grant panelists, we can help you figure that out as well. Okay, Chaz.
All right, some best practices when you're working on your application or prior to submitting. There is a feedback request button in the bottom of your application. So you can press that button and it'll alert me that someone is waiting for feedback on their application. So if you give me, 24 to 48 hours, I will get back to you I'll write you an email with some notes about what I thought about your proposal. Um, I'll kind of go through each section by each section and tell you what you can improve on and where and how. Um, but that button will disappear within 2 weeks of the deadline of the May 1st deadline. So make sure you get to that early if you can. But of course, we're not going to turn you away if you call on email and asking for help. So just that formal button will disappear. Of course, we are aware of the handy tool that AI can be for you today. It is perfectly fine for you to use AI in writing your grant application, but we don't want you to fully rely on AI to write your application because there is some kind of personality that is kind of taken out with the use of AI. So you can use it as a tool, but don't use it to write your entire proposal. Uh, Feedback from peers can also be a great tool. Show it to your friends, show it to your family, show it to me or Megan, and we can help you with feedback as well. You can use hyperlinks throughout the application. This is a really handy tool. You'll find it in each one of those narrative sections. There's a little toolbar area that has a hyperlink function where you can drop in URLs and links and things like that to words that you have in your narrative. So you want a hyperlink to your website or a newspaper article or a YouTube channel or whatever else that you might have out there on the web that you want the panelists to know. Maybe you can't um, upload your work as work samples into the application. Hyperlinks is another way you can share your work samples. I always encourage people to retitle your work samples in the RD system. So after you upload your images or your audio or your video, there's a little properties button that you can click for each image or work sample, and you can change the caption to it. So maybe it's the title of the work, the medium, the size, the date. It just looks a lot more professional and it gives more context uh, for the panelist that is reviewing the work. It is not required, but it is good practice to get estimates, credentials of people that you might be working with in the proposal. So maybe a resume of a collaborator or an instructor that you want to work with. Maybe you have their website or resume or attached to the application. Um, those are just great justifications for the funding requests. And if you are a first-time applicant and you've never used RD before, and you go to submit your application and you get that error button that says your profile is not complete, that is because you'll need to fully complete the RD profile before submitting the application. So your RD profile is not fully complete, so you want to make sure you check on that because you have to add in, I believe, your county and your legislative district numbers. And though there is a hyperlink in your profile to where it takes you to the Ohio Secretary of State website where you enter in your address. If you don't know your voting legislative district numbers, I don't know mine off the top of my head. So you enter in your address on that website and it tells you those numbers. So then you'll put those into your RD profile and then you can save it and then submit the application. And if you're a returning RD user, it's always a good practice to check your RD profile from time to time just to make sure everything's up to date in terms of contact information. Okay. All right, so you've applied to the program, your application is submitted, it's ready to go to panel. What happens at the panel? So a panel consists of various arts professionals from around the region, around the state, sometimes out of state. They will evaluate and score your application. based on the review criteria, which is listed in your guidelines. So you have the answers to the questions already. Um, they will review the application and pre-score it. And then the panel will convene for a public panel meeting, which will happen sometime in the summer, a few months later after the application deadline has passed. And you will be notified about when that panel meeting will take place. The panel meeting will be on Zoom. And you can also find when those panel meetings will be by looking at our events calendar on our website. And it's not required that you attend that panel meeting, but it's strongly encouraged that you do so you can hear what the panel thought about your proposal. The panel won't make any funding decisions that day. They're just giving their opinion about the proposal. But it's a great way to hear feedback and to improve for future applications. All right. And as I said, at the panel meeting, the panelists will discuss how the application satisfies the program's review criteria, and they'll highlight those strengths and weaknesses. Following the panel discussion, you will be emailed your final score, probably a week after the panel meeting concludes. And then later, our OAC leadership will use those scores to determine how many applications we can fund with the budget available for the program. The review process is competitive, and not all applications are funded. Notifications about those awarded applications or non-awarded are typically sent in early August. Okay. So if you are awarded one of those grants, you will receive 50% of your full request to begin the project. The other 50% is paid to you after you completed the full project and you have submitted your final report for approval. So if that means, if say you're a professional artist and you requested the full 2,500, you will start with 1,250 to begin your project. You will do the project and you'll also have to spend another, you get the OAC 1,250. You also have to spend 1,250 of your own funds or, anticipated funds or give other funds that you have to complete the project. And then we reimburse you the other 1,250 in the end when you submit that final report. So the final report can be submitted within 30 days of that project end date. So that project end date that I mentioned earlier is really important in this regard because that determines when you can submit the final report for approval and for payment. The grants are considered taxable income, so you will get a 1099 from the state within for the tax year that you are paid. So if you got your first 50% of your grant in August of 2026, you'll get one 1099 from the state for 2026. And then your other grant payment will be paid in the other tax year. So keep that in mind as you are planning your project. It's always you'll have to establish a Ohio Pays payee ID with the state of Ohio in order to be paid your grant. The OAC does not directly pay these grants out. That comes from the state of Ohio. So you have to register as a supplier, what they used to call it. Now it's a payee ID with Ohio Pays. And you want to make sure you register as an individual and not as a business or LLC. And if anything changes during your grant period after you receive your award, we understand that life happens and that your project end date might need to move or maybe move up or move forward. We can certainly do that for you, but please don't wait until the last minute to contact us with, oh my gosh, I just haven't been able to do my project. It's June 30th. What do I do? Please let us know well ahead of time what is going on and we can help you out.
Thank you, Chaz.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how Art Possible Ohio can provide support for the ADAP grant. Sorry, Chaz's face keeps popping into the middle of my screen. I had to move him over. Um, so we partner with Art Possible Ohio to provide technical support for the ADAP application. And I'm just going to go through how we can support you if you need any kind of help. Um, the first thing that we can do is collect any kind of support materials for your grant application. We can format them for you, and then we can even upload them into Artie. So if you have a resume, um, but you need it, it's just a copy and paste thing. We can make it into a PDF or Word doc for you. If you have a LinkedIn profile and you need it to be converted into an artist statement or, again, a CV or resume, we're happy to help you pull that information and make it look professional. If you have pictures from your cell phone of your artwork, and you want to email them to us or text it to me, we can take those photos, we can format them, and we can get them uploaded and even name them in the RD application with your help and support. Not everybody has access to a computer. Not everybody has the ability or the know-how to access the application, and we're here to help you navigate that. So we can help you set up an RD account. We can help you log into the account, and we can input that information for you. I did mention that we can format everything for you. That also means your budget. So we talked a little bit about that resource management. If you send us a list of everything you're going to buy, we can help tidy that up for you, help you add things, point out where there's holes or where we might need a little more information, and input that into the grant in an organized way that the judges will understand. Of course, we will need your support and guidance through all of this. We're really just transposing the information from you into the application, but we can make it nice and clean looking. We can review your grant application, whether I help you put information into the RD system or you put it in yourself. And we can check for errors or missing materials and give you feedback on what we need. And then we also can serve as a liaisons or support communication with Ohio Arts Council. So I do provide technical support for the ADAP grant. There are questions that are sometimes thrown at me that I do not know the answer to. And so the easy person to reach out to connect with Chaz or someone else at OAC to find out that answer for you. Or if you have feedback or concerns, I'm happy to share those with Ohio Arts Council as well, just to make it a one-stop shop for you when you're applying for the ADAP grant. The only other images we have on our screen that I wanted to let you know about are just some little icons that correspond with each of these points. So I have like an email icon, I have a screen icon, and things like that. They're basically just little icons that go along with my bullet points. Other ways that we can support you that are not as technical. We can talk through your grant proposals and idea to see if it's a good fit for the ADAP application. We can kind of help you shape your idea, share the questions with you to see how we can break them out and make sure that you're meeting the guidelines of the ADAP application. If you're a little confused about all the things that Chaz mentioned, or the PDF is confusing to you that says you need all of these things in order to submit your grant, I promise you it's not that overwhelming. We can go through those with you and we can break it out. I can say, this is what you need for the emerging level. Here's a list of what you need at the professional level. First, let's get your resume and your artist statement to us. And then maybe in another interaction we have, we work on getting your images. We can kind of break down those guidelines and make sure that you have everything you need for the ADAP application. Just like Chaz, we can send you a Word doc version of the grant questions. I can pop the grant questions in an email. We can send you a paper copy of the grant questions, whatever your preference is, in order to make it more accessible for you. And then, of course, I want to have conversations with you. I want to have meetings with you to really determine what is the best way we can support you. So I'd love to schedule Zoom meetings or phone calls in order to have like useful conversations that help us determine the ways that we want to work together. So how do you get a hold of Art Possible Ohio? You can call our voicemail. The number is listed here on the screen at 380-799-6253. An easier way to remember it is 380-799-6 or MAKE, MAKE. You can leave a voicemail for us and we will call you back within 24 to 48 hours. You do need to leave a voicemail in order for us to know what your messaging is and to be able to call you back effectively. The fastest way to get a hold of me is to email me directly. My email is megan@artpossibleohio.org. If you email anybody in our organization, if you would happen to find them on our website, they would be happy to direct you right back to me. So at the end of the day, if you go to our website, artpossibleohio.org, you're going to be able to find any kind of contact information to get a hold of me. And then the last thing is just to give us reasonable notice for full grant support. So if you need my support from setting up an ARTI grant to inputting your answers to collecting your information, we just need enough time to be able to do that effectively. We are just like Ohio Arts Council. We're happy to help you and support you and answer questions all the way through that May 1st deadline, but we will need adequate time to do the work itself that needs to be done. And we want to do it the best that we can. So do feel free to reach out at any point at that contact information, and we will get back to you and figure out the best ways that Art Possible Ohio can help you put together a great ADAP application. So again, Chaz and I are sharing our contact information with you today. Um, Mine again is megan@artpossibleohio.org or 380-799-6253. And Chaz is chaz.o'neil, Oneil, at oac.ohio.gov. The phone number there is 614-728-4421. All of this information is available on the Ohio Arts Council website, and Chaz's specific information is connected directly to any information you find about the ADAP grant online. Anything you want to add, Chaz, about contacting you?
Oh, that was great. Um, yeah, we look forward to working with you and hopefully, making the best application that you can possibly get before panel, and we'll hopefully have a good review for you. So, thank you, Megan, for putting this together.
And thank you, Chaz, for working with us. And good luck to everyone applying for the ADAP grant this year. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.